Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You are still watching NTV Weekend Edition. Now, the release of the 2022 PLE results has been in the news this weekend. Now, this is the first class of learners who had to endure the rigors of the COVID-19 lockdown, with some having been made to skip a class or two before being allowed to sit for P7. Now, to help us look at the impact of the lockdown on the learner, we do have Ambrose Kabugo, an Assistant Director at Good Times Kawala. Good evening, sir, and welcome to Talk of the Nation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mildred.
Well, this is the first exam result that saw students being allowed to skip a class due to the lockdown, you know. So it is in order for us to ask, how did the lockdown actually affect the learners?
Actually, the COVID-19 had a very big impact on learners, that most of them were unable to cover the content they are meant to cover. Actually, they skipped, and there is a very big content gap that was realized in P7. So it was a very big struggle for most of them to cover up the missed content.
And how did you handle that?
Actually, what was done in most schools, that those who skipped were put in separate classrooms.
Those who skipped the classes?
The classes.
Okay.
We were put into different streams, and there was a lot of drilling to catch up with the missed gap. So the teachers had to work hard. There are those who are covering the missed content, there are those who are carrying on the ongoing curriculum, the ongoing topics. So there was a lot of work.
So you acknowledge that some of the P7 students that sat for the PLE actually missed out on critical classes like primary 6 and P5. We also and P5.
Yes.
And we also did see the UNEB actually attributing this to some of the students that failed to actually perform well because of them skipping these classes. Do you think that, but there were those that were actually lucky to have made it at the first sitting.
Yes.
Do you think that this has an effect on a student, on a pupil in the long run?
Yes, it has a very big effect. So if the child has skipped, there's going to be a very big content gap. So in the long run, as they proceed in other classes, they are going to find it very difficult to recover. So if they don't work hard, they are likely to fail. But
how about those that actually made it at the first try?
Yes, we may say that they were lucky, maybe they were genius, but there are those who are just struggling, and they are likely to find also problems in the future. So it is not acceptable to me.
Did you as Good Times Infant School actually have some of these students that skipped classrooms actually sit for PLE, and how did they actually perform?
Yeah, lucky enough, they performed very well. We had them. But as I told you, there was a lot of drilling, there was a lot of teaching to cover up.
And how did you even arrive to this decision? Was it a consent from both parents? If you knew that it was something that would affect them, you know, with the content gap and everything, how come you went ahead and, you know, allowed them to sit for the exams?
Mildred, there is a lot of pressure from parents. Major this problem was pushed by parents who want their children to go to P7, more especially the girl child. They looked at the size, they looked at the age, and they preferred their children to come to P7 so they can continue. Forgetting that if they are to push their children to further classes, they are likely to face serious problems because of the gap missed.
So is this the same effect with those that children that missed from, let's say, nursery and skipped all the way to P1? There are those who moved from P1 all the way to P4, skipping about P2 and P3. Is it the same effect on them as well?
Of course, in the first instance, the first term, you could find such problems. You could see there are some difficulties here and there. But as they push on, they recover, they catch up. Because the government of Uganda made the abridged curriculum, which pushed some of the content of, say, P5 class was pushed to P6, so that the children who are in P5, they can find what they missed in P6.
Is it possible? Because I understand P5 and P6, these are different syllabi, right?
Yeah, but there's a way the ministry did it, and some of the content was pushed so that these children can find it. So they may not find problems like these ones who started last year, because they will have
problems.
They will have studied such content.
Okay.
Yes,
so
please.
let's talk about the performance. Generally speaking, UNEB says that the performance was much better and learners were more inclined to read and write, since most of the questions that were set were based on real life experiences. Did you notice this at Good Times Infant School?
Actually, we did, and most of the work came from P5 and P6, if you are to analyze the paper. So, meaning that teachers who teach in primary 5 and 6 have to do a lot of work, have to teach the content, and have to teach the 3 domains. More especially, most of the work was comprehension questions and application questions, very few knowledge questions.
For example?
So, questions that needed reasoning were very many, which needed the child to comprehend and give the answer. So they covered a very big percentage. So we realized that if the child has missed the content, has not been taught well, is likely to fail. So in such a situation, in Good Times we tried our best. As I told you, that we had to separate those who skipped and give them extra information, give them extra time, we give them extra care so they can catch up. So we realized that there are some difficulties, those who are slow learners, to push them, but good enough, they were able to pass.
So do you say that these exams that are bent towards, you know, the everyday life experiences are better suited to improving the learners?
Yeah, it is very good, because they are, like for me, I teach social studies. Most of the questions that came were based on the environment where the child stays, at school, at home, in the environment. And those questions appeared many in the paper.
You teach social studies, and yet your subject was it the least performed? What would you say about the questions or the exam that was set? What went wrong?
The problem came that most of the questions that came were comprehension questions that needed a lot of reasoning.
The pupils were not ready?
Yes, and most of the teachers teach knowledge, just remembering, recalling. They don't teach reasoning. So this calls for the teachers that to dig deeper when they're teaching, to dig deeper and to question, rather to give questions to these learners that are based on reasoning, as many questions as possible, so that by the end, when PLE comes, they're able to go through.
Okay.
Yes, please.
And still staying on that situation of the poor performance in some of the subjects, well, there are also some pupils who express sadness and disappointment at how they performed. Many of them did not perform to their expectations. How would you advise the parents of these children and also these pupils?
Actually, to the parents and learners, this is not the end. Actually, we have got very many surprises that such children who always feel that they have failed at PLE, they end up performing very well at O level and A level. So this is not the end. And this chapter was closed. Then now look forward. Let us move forward. They should advise their children to move forward for the best. They can still do well.
Did you have some of those that expressed disappointment in their performance at Good Times?
Yes, they are there. Of course, before exams, everybody yearns for a 4 and ends up getting a 5. Of course, it pains, but that's not the end of the world. Yes, because we have got those who always get 12, and when they go to secondary school, they do very well. They get 8 in 8, they get 12 in 8. So this is not the end of the world. Yes.
Well,
and also there were those surprises. those who didn't expect and were able to perform very, very well.
Those, you mean like those who were weak, let's say from term 1,
yes,
and even through the mocks,
yes,
and then finally got 4.
Got 4s. There are very many. There are very many. Those who never even got a first grade in all the assessments we made, but when the results came, they had got a single-digit first grade. So such surprises keep on coming, and that one should be a lesson to parents and the learners, that at the end of the day, you can achieve. Not this classroom assessment can push you back. If you keep on pushing, you're able to achieve. Yes.
That is true. All right, so the Minister of Education, as we get to wrap up this conversation, has called on school owners to be considerate when it comes to, you know, the parents actually battling the hard economic times, and the ministry is asking school owners to be considerate when it comes to the tuition fees. What is your say on this?
Actually, that is a very good move that the government is coming in to help parents, those who cannot afford fees. But of course, with private-owned schools, most of the fees is based on the prices outside, because such schools are not helped. All the costs are met from the fees collected from the learners. So if the prices outside are low, I'm sure even the fees can be down and they can be affordable to all the parents. Yes. So it is now, I call upon the government also to realize that the cost of living is high outside.
And it is also affecting the parents.
It is affecting the parents, but of course now realize that most of the learners are in boarding schools, and the school has to meet all the costs. It has to buy food, it has to pay the bills for electricity, water, paying teachers. They're not supported by the government. So it is the fees from the learners, rather from the parents that pay, that are meant to cover such costs. Yes.
But also private schools are known for hiking fees, first of all, and also asking for enormous requirements.
Yes, please.
Yes. So you find that this takes a toll on the parents, and that is why the Ministry of Education is actually coming out to say you should be considerate to the parent.
Actually, the considerations are always there. But of course, as parents, they must know that that is their responsibility of teaching their children. And also they should be in a good relationship with the administrators. Let them face the administrators. Let them talk to them. I think there are always other indoor negotiations. Not everybody in a school pays similar fees, like what is written on circulars and what. There are those who go in and some deductions are always made. There are some schools who accept installments. So I think it's better to create a good relationship between the parents and the school administration in such circumstances.
Well, in your parting shot in regards to the discussion that we've had, do you deem it right for parents or for schools to actually make it, to make pupils skip classes for them to move to the next level?
I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't support that, because that one will affect the learners, will affect our academic grades, will affect our performances, because if they skip, actually they find very many difficulties. Remember, we teach, we keep on adding. Our education system is spiral. You add on what has been taught. So if it has been skipped, you're likely to find problems. Yeah, so I wouldn't suggest that.
All right. Thank you, Ambrose Kabugo, the Assistant Director at Good Times Kawala, getting to share with us the situation that we got to witness from the PLE results, which had a number of students that did not make it or that did not perform to the expectations, having had to skip a class or two due to the COVID-19 situation or the lockdown. Well, we now take a break, and NTV Weekend Edition continues shortly.